What's up everyone, it's Hockey Strix here bringing you another video about what it's going to look like if the NHL returns to play. In the past two videos we've set the stage for the 16-team Stanley Cup Playoffs, and in this video we're finally going to get to simulating the actual 16-team bracket. Before we get into it, I just wanted to show you guys the settings I'm using here on NHL 20 are the authentic settings for the playoff bracket, and I also just want to give you guys a warning that the bracket I'm about to show you is going to spoil the previous two videos. So if you missed those two videos and care to see the qualifying round simulation and the round robin simulation, I'll put the links in the description below and annotations on the screen. There was one issue I realized with the NHL's default roster on the game, and that was that Dustin Byfuglien was still on the Winnipeg Jets. Sadly, I used this roster for the qualifying round, and the Winnipeg Jets got in over the Calgary Flames. Hopefully that wasn't the deciding factor, but in the playoffs, we're going to take Dustin Byfuglien off the Winnipeg Jets, as you can see on the screen. Here it is, guys. You can see the 16-team bracket that we've set up through our qualifying round and round robin seeding process in the previous two videos. It's time to get into the actual 16-team playoff simulation. It's time to finally start the grueling marathon that is the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. Looks like our very first game is the Arizona Coyotes versus the St. Louis Blues. We're going to do things a little bit different in this video than in the previous two videos. We're going to go a little bit more in depth. We're going to check the 3 stars of each game. We're going to track the stats for each team, see who's leading the playoffs in stats. Since we're finally actually into the playoff tournament, we can track all the stats and stuff like that. For now, let's get to simulating this first game. Arizona starts the playoffs off hot with a 1-0 lead. Big comeback from St. Louis in the second. We have an overtime game for the very first game of the first round, boys. St. Louis takes that first game in overtime. Binnington comes up huge for the St. Louis Blues, it looks like. Tarasenko's back and healthy like he will be in real life, scoring a goal and an assist. Game 2 is going to be Minnesota versus Colorado, Game 1. Colorado takes a 1-0 lead from Landy. Stays at 1-0 after 2. Looks like whoever the Colorado Avalanche have in net shut out the Minnesota Wild for a 3-0 win. They had Grubauer in net as expected. 2 goals from Landy. 2 apples from McKinnon. Here we go. We finally have an Eastern Conference game on our hands. Toronto versus Tampa, Game 1. Huge first period, 2-2 after 1. Tampa Bay takes a 4-2 lead going into the third. 5-3 for Tampa, first game. Big win for them. 3 stars of the game look like Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn, and Sergachev. Carolina versus Washington, Game 1. 0-0 after the first period. A huge second period for Carolina. They're up 4-0. Carolina wins the first game 6-0. That is a statement by them. Wow, looks like Mr. Game 7 himself has scored 3 points in the first game. A shutout from Mrazek and another 3 points from Svechnikov. Back over to the Western Conference for Edmonton versus Dallas, Game 1. This is the 4th seed versus the 5th seed. This should be a close series. 2-1 for Edmonton after 1. McDavid coming up huge. I think he has a hat trick already. And the Oilers win it 5-2. I believe McDavid had at least a hat trick in this game. There it is. Like I thought, McDavid had a hat trick. Here we are, Winnipeg versus Vegas, Game 1. I really think Winnipeg's going to give Vegas some trouble here in this game. 1-1 after 1. Vegas comes up huge. 4-1 after 2. Winnipeg makes a comeback, but it's not enough. Vegas takes 5-3 win. Looks like the scoring was spread out for Vegas here. A lot of people chipped in. 2 goals for Marchessault. 2 points for Smith, 2 points for Stone. Finally, we're getting to the first game of the Battle of Pennsylvania. 1-1 after the first. I'm expecting more goals than this in real life. 2-2. And Philly takes the first game 4-3. Voracek gets first star, Giroux second star, Couturier third star. Now to the only series without a game played. I'm expecting a rough series here as well. 2-1 for Boston after the first. Huge second period. A lot of goals scored, 4-3 for New York, 5-5 going into the first overtime period. Boston wins 6-5. I think Bergeron had a couple there. Let's see. A hat trick for Bergeron, 3 points for Pastrnak, and 2 points for Marchand. Looks like that line is rolling in the playoffs, as everyone would expect. Finally, we're into the second set of games. St. Louis versus Arizona, Game 2. 0-0 after the first period. 2-0 St. Louis after the second. Just shuts out Arizona. Binnington looks like he's probably coming up huge again here. Shutout. 2 points for Sundqvist, 2 points for Bozak. Minnesota versus Colorado, Game 2 coming up. Let's see if Minnesota can bounce back. 1-0 Minnesota. Still 1-0 Minnesota after 2. And the game finishes 1-0 Minnesota. I'm going to guess that both goalies are a star here in this game. Yep, first and second star, and Luke Kunin with the only goal in the game. Back for another high-flying game of Toronto versus Tampa. 0-0 after the first, not what you'd expect to see. 3-0 for Tampa after the second. Absolutely nothing from Toronto, completely silent. Gets shut out by Vasilevsky. Vasi's the first star. Gaudreau, second star. Palat, third star. Carolina versus Washington game 2. Expecting a big bounce back here from Washington. And it's 0-0 after the first. Looks like 2-2 after the second. And Carolina takes game 2 as well, 4-3. Vincent Trocheck, the big pickup from Carolina at the trade deadline with the first star. TJ Oshie and Martin Necas, they all had 2 points. Edmonton versus Dallas game 2. Let's see if McDavid's going to put up another hat trick or if Big Ben Bishop's going to come up solid this game. 1-0 for Dallas after 1. Big second period, 3-2 for Dallas after 2. And wow, Nugent Hopkins comes through with 2 goals in the third period to win the game for Edmonton. And Ryan Nugent Hopkins lands the hat trick this game, not McDavid or Draisaitl. Jamie Benn's second star. Adam Larson with 2 assists. Wow. Here we go. Winnipeg versus Vegas game 2. 1-0 after 1. And 1-0 after 2. 3-0 for Winnipeg. Hellebuck shuts out the Vegas Golden Knights. First star for Hellebuck. 3 points for Patrick Laine and second star award. 2 points for Nathan Beaulieu. Back to the Battle of Pennsylvania game 2. 1-0 for Philly after 1. 3-0 for Philly after 2. Absolutely nothing from Gino or Crosby. Nothing. They get shut out. Carter Hart, obviously first star. Grant, second star. And Raffle, second star. Some gritty stars there. You love to see it in the playoffs. Boys coming through. Back for game 2 of Boston versus the Islanders now. 0-0 after the first. That one surprised me to see this game or series be low scoring in real life. 0-0 after the second. Big third period though, and it's 2-2 going into overtime. Boston takes game 2 as well. Tuukka Rask gets the first star award, but nothing from the Islanders goalie for stars here. Barzal, third star. Nordstrom, second star. Now that we've played 2 games in each series, let's look at the bracket. St. Louis is up 2-0. Oilers up 2-0. 1-1 for Colorado. Minnesota 1-1. Vegas win. 2-0 for the Lightning. 2-0 for Philly. 2-0 for the Kings. 2-0 for the Bruins. Likely going to get a sweep over there in the Eastern Conference from one of those series, I would expect. Back to St. Louis versus Arizona game 3. 0-0 after the first. Big second period for St. Louis here, 3-0. And Arizona squeaks in just 1 goal by Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington is being lights out again in this playoffs. Sundqvist, another second star award. Vince Dunn, third star. Game 3 over here, Colorado versus Minnesota. It's 1-1. Minnesota takes the lead. Kevin Fiala keeping his season rolling. 1-1 after 2 periods. And we're going into another overtime game. Let's see what happens here, boys. Going into a second overtime now at this point. And finally, we have a goal here in second overtime. And Colorado takes the game. Samuel Girard on Devin Dubnyk. Here we have it, boys. 3 stars of that double overtime thriller. Dubnyk, first star. Grubauer, second star. Mikko Rantanen with the third star. So the losing goalie got first star over the winning goalie. Game 3, Tampa versus Toronto. We need to come back here for the Leafs. 2-0 for Tampa. Not looking good for Toronto at this point. 2-1. Willie Nylander comes through. And Tampa wins the game 2-1, going up 3-0 over the Leafs in the first round. Again, Vasilevsky with a star here. Freddie Anderson, third star. Killorn, again, looks like he's playing good for Tampa. Game 3, Washington versus Carolina. I'm really still expecting Washington to make a comeback here. 2-0 for Carolina. Trocheck coming through again. Aho, 3-0. 4-1. Carolina takes the game. They're up 3-0 on Washington in the series at this point. Looks like Mrazek's playing great in his playoffs here. Second star to war for Aho. Another third star for Svechnikov. Game 3, Dallas versus Edmonton. Will Dallas show any signs of life here, or are they just going to get another hat trick scored against them? 1-0 for Dallas. 2-1 for Dallas after the second. Big third period, and Edmonton comes through. Connor McDavid with the first star award, 2 goals. Shea Sean had 3 assists and Draisaitl 2 points for third star. To another series that's tied up, Vegas versus Winnipeg, game 3. It's all tied up at 1-1 though. Big first period, 3-2 for Winnipeg after 1 period. Another big period, 5-5 going into the third. A high scoring game, 7-5 for Vegas. Alex Tuch had 4 points. Paul Stastny had 4 points. Kopp had 2 points. Time for game 3 of the Battle of Pennsylvania. Is Pittsburgh going to show any life here in this series? 1-1 after 1. 3-1 for Philly going into the third. Pittsburgh needs some life. 4-1 for Philly. Looks like Carter Hart is just shutting them out at this point. A first star for Carter Hart again, another second star for Raffle, and it looks like Oskar Lindblom is healthy here in the game, which I hope we see in real life sooner rather than later. Final series that only has 2 games played, Boston versus New York. 2-1 for New York after 1. 4-1, huge game. 4-2, New York wins the game. Let's see the 3 stars of the game. Varlamov with the first star, that's the type of stuff we're going to need to see to happen for them to take down the Bruins in a game. Nelson with second star. Bailey with the third star. Alright, here we are heading into game 4 with our first potential sweep if St. Louis takes this against Arizona. 0-0 after the first period. 2-1 for Arizona after the first. 3-1 for Arizona. They stay alive, push a game 5. And there we go, the 3 stars of the game. Looks like Kemper came up big for them to keep them in the series. Dvorak 2 goals and Derek Stepan with 1 goal. Colorado versus Minnesota game 4. 1-0 mini after 1. 2-0 mini after 2. 3-0 mini after 3. Just like that, they shut out the Colorado Avalanche. Devin Dubnyk's playing great. A goal from Spurgeon, a goal from Dumba. Time for Tampa versus Toronto game 4. If Toronto loses here, they get swept in the first round of the playoffs. 1-0 for Toronto. Mikheyev comes through. 2-1 for Tampa. Will Toronto make a comeback? 3-1 for Tampa. Toronto gets swept in the first round of the playoffs. Despite getting swept here in the game, Freddie Anderson gets the first star of the game, so Tampa must have lit him up. Yep, 34 saves. Vasilevsky second star. Killorn, another star award here. Game 4 of Washington versus Colorado. Game 4 of Washington versus Carolina here. Will Washington get swept as well? 1-0 for Carolina. 2-1 for Carolina after 2. 3-2 for Carolina after 3. Washington and the Leafs both get swept. Svechnikov first star. Mrazek with another great game. Teravainen third star. Edmonton versus Dallas game 4. Will we see our 3rd sweep in a row? Huge first period for Dallas. They're not going out like that. 4-1 for Dallas after 2. 4-1 for Dallas after 3. They held on. Ben Bishop with the first star. Corey Perry second star. And McDavid squeezes in there as the 3rd star. Vegas versus Winnipeg game 4. Let's see what this has in store for us. 1-0 Winnipeg after 1. 1-0 Winnipeg after 2. Will they hold on for 1-0 win? 2-2. Looks like we're going into overtime. Looks like we're going into double overtime here, boys. 3-2. Vegas comes through in that second overtime. Here we are, Battle of Pennsylvania game 4. Are Gino and Crosby going to let them get swept? I haven't even seen a goal for either of them yet. 1-0 for Pitt after 1. 2-0 for Pitt after 2. 3-0. Pittsburgh takes the game. Finally breaks through. Carter Hart. Sidney Crosby with the first star award. 3 points. Tanev second star. Matt Murray with the big shutout and only gets a 3rd star because Philly barely had any shots on him. Back to the Bruins versus Islanders. 0-0 after 1. 0-0 after 2. Again, this seems kind of realistic to me for these games to be low scoring against these 2 teams. 2-0 for Boston after the 3rd period. They take the win. Both goalies get 1st and 2nd star, and then Bergeron gets the 3rd star. Here we are looking at the bracket after 4 games played for each team. The Toronto Maple Leafs have been swept, and so have the Washington Capitals. Every other team is still in it. Yotes versus the Blues, game 5. Let's see if the Yotes can keep up their momentum they had from winning that last game. And they go up 2-0 after 1. 3-1 after 2 for the Yotes. 4-2, and they win another game. Garland with 2 goals. Kemper with the 2nd star. Stefan with another 3rd star award due to his 2 assists. Here we are going to Minnesota versus Colorado game 5, which appears to be the closest series in the simulation right now. 2-2 series. 2-1 for Colorado after 1. 3-2 for Colorado. Big 3rd period, and it's 4-4 going into overtime. Minnesota takes the game 5-4. First star goes to Rantanen, 2nd star to Zuccarello, 3rd star to Matt Dumba. Game 5, Edmonton versus Dallas. Will we see another hat trick scored by someone on Edmonton, or will Big Ben come up big again? 0-0 after 1. 2-0 after 2, and Bishop is steady. 2-2 after the 3rd. Now they're going to overtime. If Edmonton scores here, they win the series. Going into 2nd overtime, boys. Dallas holds on to the series. Sagan coming through with a double OT winner. Game 5 here. Winnipeg could be eliminated from the playoffs if they lose this game. 2-0 Vegas after 1. 3-0 Vegas. Big 3rd period. But Winnipeg can't come back. They lose 5-2, and I think they're knocked out of the playoffs. Stastny first star, Marchessault second star, and Wheeler comes in with the 3rd star. Back to the Battle of Pennsylvania. Let's see if Gino can come through for some goals here this time. 1-0 Philly after 1. 3-0 to Philly after 2. Pittsburgh's going to need a big comeback here in the third. Let's see. Pittsburgh gets 2 goals in the third, but it's not enough. They lose the series to Islanders versus Bruins Game 5. 2-0 after 1. 2-2, so all tied up after 2. 2-2 after 3. We're going into overtime. Boston wins in overtime. A big clutch goal from Bergeron. Tuukka Rask with the first star award. Bergeron with the second star. Marchand with the third star. Looking at the bracket with 5 games played for all the series that needed it. Vegas takes out Winnipeg. Philly takes out Pitt. And Boston takes out the Islanders. Only 3 series remain. Time for Game 6, Yotes versus Blues. 1-0 for the Yotes after 1. 2-0 for the Yotes after 2. Looks like Darcy Kuemper shut out St. Louis. What a swing of events for the goalies here. First Binnington was lights out, and now looks like Kuemper was lights out. Yup, another first star for Kuemper. Second star for Goligoski, and third star for Keller. Game 6, Colorado versus Minnesota. Game 6, Colorado versus Minnesota. Will McKinnon and the boys come through? 0-0 after 1. 1-1 after 2. Huge third period, but Minnesota wins the game 4-3. Forgot to check the stars of that Minnesota versus Colorado game, but Minnesota did take out Colorado in that series. Game 6, Dallas versus Edmonton. Let's see what happens here. 1-1 after 1. 3-2 for Edmonton after 2. Big third period, and Dallas comes through and pushes a Game 7 5-3 win. Oleskiak with the first star, Pavelski second star, and Draisaitl for the Oilers comes in with the third star. Here we are looking at the bracket after 6 games played, if any of the series needed it. Minnesota took out Colorado 4-2 in their series. And now we have 2 Game 7s left to simulate. It was at this point in time during the editing process that I realized that the Arizona Coyotes were on the verge of reverse sweeping the St. Louis Blues, and the Dallas Stars were on the verge of reverse sweeping the Edmonton Oilers. Five to nothing for the Yotes, a huge statement win. Darcy Kuemper has been absolutely lights out. I'm guessing he is first star. Yep, first star for Kuemper, second star for Schmaltz, third star for Phil the Thrill. Here we are with the only series left remaining in the first round, Edmonton versus Dallas, going to a Game 7. Hopefully this is a closer Game 7 than the Yotes versus Blues. 2-1 for Edmonton, huge second period, and now it's 5-3 for Edmonton after 2. Let's sim some of this in real time. Dallas is going to need to make a comeback soon. There's only 13 minutes left in the third period of Game 7. Only 6 minutes left in the third period of Game 7, and Dallas is down 2 goals. Looking like Edmonton's going to close out this Game 7. Oh my god, Dallas scores with 46 seconds left, and they can't do it. Edmonton wins 5-4 in Game 7. Anthony Ciu, the pickup at the deadline, comes through for first star, 2 goals. Dickinson second star, and Draisaitl third star again. Here it is, the entire first round of our 2020 Stanley Cup Playoffs in this simulation is complete. The Yotes managed to take out the St. Louis Blues in 7 games. Oilers take out Dallas in 7 games. Minnesota moves on to the second round over Colorado. Vegas takes out Winnipeg in 5 games. Tampa takes out the Leafs dominantly 4-0. Philly wins the Battle of Pennsylvania against Pittsburgh. Canes take out Washington Capitals. Boston takes out the New York Islanders to move on to the second round as well. Let's check out the point leaders in the playoffs thus far. In the entire league, Draisaitl's leading the playoffs with 12 points, and then his teammate over on Edmonton, Nuge, has 11 points for second. McDavid's down here getting carried by his teammates. A big showing from Stastny and Marchessault here to take Vegas' series over Winnipeg. Let's take a look and see what happened to the Washington Capitals and the Toronto Maple Leafs and Pittsburgh Penguins in their series where they got so dominantly taken out. So as you can see, Alex Ovechkin scored no points in their series. Peter Mrazek was apparently lights out. Not sure why Ovechkin and Tom Wilson and Dowd are all here twice, but regardless, it's just a duplicate. They scored no points whatsoever. Holtby and Samsonov both got lit up by the Canes, it looks. This is quite the turn of events because the EA simming here on NHL is typically very good to Ovechkin. He scores a lot of goals in these sims, so he just got shut out this series, and Capitals got taken out by the Canes. Let's go see what happened to the Toronto Maple Leafs. For Toronto Maple Leafs, it looks like their big guys did nothing. The high scorer on the team is 2 points, and it's Nylander, Tavares, and Hyman. They were likely put on the same line in the game, if I had to guess. Only 1 point out of Marner, 1 point out of Matthews. Freddie Anderson didn't play terrible in the simulation, but he didn't play great either. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, it looks like they just couldn't score. They only scored 5 goals in 4 total games here, as you can see. Let's have a peek into what happened to Pittsburgh over here. Sidney Crosby led the team, of course, 4 points in 5 games. Where is Malkin on this list? I do not even see him. Only 1 point for Malkin as well. He usually sims pretty good too. And that's what you hate to see. Jake Getzel comes back from injury and gets absolutely 0 points in this simulation for Pittsburgh. That's rough. You need him to be scoring points if you're going to win your playoff series. Looks like Pitt rode Matt Murray the whole way, never gave Jerry a shot, and he posted up a sub 900 save percentage. It's just not good enough. You'd think they would have gave Jerry a shot. Let's see what happened to the Winnipeg Jets to lose their series 4-1 as well. Patrick Laine had a point per game, but you need more out of Wheeler and Scheifele there if you're going to win that series. Let's see what happened to Hellebuck in this series. Hellebuck had that one shutout game, but other than that, they lost all the games. They didn't get a shutout, and he posted a .900 in total. It's not good enough goaltending from him. He's a Vezina candidate. You need him to be really good in this playoffs to support that defense on the back end. Let's see what happened to the low-scoring New York Islanders over here. Well, Varlamov played above 900, so that's solid for them. He had a couple stars of the game, if I do remember. The Islanders actually had higher scores than the other teams that got dominated. Barzal put up 7 points in 5 games. Lee, point per game as well. Dal Cole was called up for the playoffs by the looks of it, 3 points in 5 games. Looks like the New York Islanders didn't actually do too bad as a whole. They just got overpowered by the powerhouse Boston Bruins. One other thing I wanted to check out is how the Colorado Avalanche lost their series to the Minnesota Wild. Looks like all the big guys over here for Colorado were under a point per game, so that's not good enough. No goals from Nathan McKinnon's not good enough. Just 1 goal out of each of Makar and Kadri's not going to get you through the playoff round either, I guess. That secondary scoring, Burakovsky as well, you're going to need a goal from him. For the fact that Colorado lost this series 4-2 to Minnesota, Grubauer played amazing, .93 save percentage. Minnesota must have been just laying so many shots into this guy. I don't know what Colorado's defense could have been doing during this series. Let's look at the last 2 teams who got eliminated from the playoffs in Game 7s. Looks like randomly Matthias Janmark, Blake Comeau, and Radek Faska led the Dallas Stars. Tyler Seguin usually sims better than this. 4-7 for Jamie Benn's not too bad. You need a goal out of Rope Hintz and Radulov if you're going to win a series, but I guess their secondary scoring there at the top must have carried them to that Game 7. Typically, you'd expect more out of Ben Bishop, but it was an intense playoff series. Finally, we'll look at the last team. St. Louis Blues, last year's Stanley Cup champions, got eliminated by the Arizona Coyotes in Game 7. As we already knew, Jordan Binnington played great. He had a .923 save percentage. He posted 1 shutout. Not a lot of points from any of the forwards here on the St. Louis Blues. If Vladimir Tarasenko's only scoring 2 points in 7 games for you, you're going to have a lot of time winning your series because you don't have any elite goal scorers performing to their best at this point. Looks like even their 7 Mackenzie McKerns didn't get it done for them here. We've looked at all the stats for the players on the teams that have been eliminated already. We'll look at the stats for the players on teams that are still in the playoffs when they do end up ultimately getting eliminated. There it is, a pretty in-depth look at the entire simulated first round. We're going to leave the second round, Conference Finals, and Stanley Cup Finals for the next video. I'd also like to say that I know the NHL hasn't decided if the first and second rounds are going to be best of 7, but they've been preaching all about the integrity of the Stanley Cup. So I do expect the first and second and all the rounds to be a best of 7, like I'm doing here in this simulation. Who knows how it's actually going to work out, but for the simulation, I'm completely okay with the series being best of 7. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave feedback in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more hockey talk and Chell content. This has been Hockey Strix.